Hey everybody, this is Dr. Alex here, and I wanted to give some overview of autoimmunity from our perspective. Many patients we see have autoimmune conditions. They're extremely common, and there's a reason why conventional medicine really fails to address autoimmune disorders and why so many people still have issues with them. So I want to cover today what autoimmunity is, both from a medical perspective and a holistic perspective, and how to think about it and how to work with it. Okay. So, um, what is autoimmunity? Autoimmunity is basically where the body attacks itself. The immune system of a body creates antibodies against different parts of the system that then get attacked by the immune system itself. And the kind of autoimmune condition that it is will affect different parts of the body. So in psoriasis, the immune system attacks the skin. In irritable bowel diseases like ulcerative colitis and Crohn's, the body will attack the digestive lining. In pernicious anemia, the body will attack the stomach. In rheumatoid arthritis, the body will attack the joints. In diabetes type 1, the body will attack the pancreas, etc., etc. There's over 100 different autoimmune conditions you can see here, and here's a laundry list. This is Autoimmune Association, autoimmune.org. Hundreds, over 100 autoimmune conditions, some that affect very, very specific parts of the cell, others that affect larger areas like the lining of the GI. So there's a big spectrum of where autoimmune conditions attack, how they manifest. Okay. So let's get some more information here. They're extremely common. So it's said here that 24 million Americans are affected, and the population of America is around 330 million. So like around 7% or so are affected with autoimmune conditions, which is quite a lot. Many people with autoimmune conditions have multiple, 1, 2, or 3 or more autoimmune conditions at the same time. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And 80% of all patients diagnosed with an autoimmune disease are women. So much more common in women. We can see here, this is scientificamerica.com. Here's a chart of some of the most common autoimmune conditions and the frequency in the population. So we can see psoriasis is more than 1 in 100. We have some of the most common ones here: Hashimoto's, celiacs. That's the autoimmune condition that attacks your small intestine when you're gluten allergic. Graves, rheumatoid arthritis, very common. And then 1 in 1,000, we have diabetes type 1, vitiligo, which attacks the melanin in your skin cells. So it leads to those white patches. Rheumatic fever, pernicious anemia leads to B12 deficiency, etc. MS. So it's very, very common. Okay, we can see here, this was done back in 2000. This is an article, Autoimmune Diseases, a Leading Cause of Death Among Young and Middle-Aged Women in the United States. And in this article, they explain that autoimmune disease deaths exceeded the frequency of the 10th leading cause in every age category of women and younger than 65 years. Meaning that basically, if you look at the top 10 official causes of death, there aren't any autoimmune conditions in there. But when you categorize autoimmune diseases as a group, they are the 10th leading cause. And this was back in 2000. We can see here, this is a graph of a couple very common autoimmune conditions over the course of time. We can see all of them are going up a lot. This graph only goes up to the year 2000. And we can see here in a recent study that was done that ANA, the prevalence of ANA, which is anti-nuclear antibodies, which is the most common biomarker of autoimmunity. This group of researchers looked at how this has been rising in the population over 25 years. So in between 1988 and 1991, we had 11% of the population had positive ANA antibodies. In 1999 to 2004, 11.5%. And then in 2001 to 2012, it jumped up to 15.9%. So it's going up dramatically. 22 million to 27 million, then all the way up to 41 million are affected, right? So again, we're only looking up to 2012 here. This article was published in 2020, so it was a retrospective look, looking in the past. There's no reason to believe that these numbers are leveling off. It's very likely that they're increasing more and more rapidly, which means it's very, very common and a continuing issue that is not being addressed by our conventional medical system at all. Okay? So that's what it is. Who gets it? Now, we already saw here that 80% of all people diagnosed with autoimmune diseases are women. Okay, let's look here at some information. So, who gets autoimmune diseases? Women of childbearing age are the most common. People with a family history, definitely we see this. And of course, the conventional medical model says that this is all a gene issue. That could be part of it. But remember the idea of epigenetics. Your genes are not set in stone. Something has to trigger your genes in order for you to experience things that are in your family history. So by no means is family history a death sentence. We do see it. I can agree with this. It seems to be more prevalent in people who have other people in their family with a tendency towards these conditions. But what I'm trying to say is there's more going on than just genes. We're going to get into that in a second. Okay, even the conventional medical field admits that there are things in the environment that trigger people with autoimmune conditions. They have here sunlight, chemicals like solvents, viral and bacterial infections. There's many others. We're going to get to that. So there's a trigger. And then different people of different ethnic and racial backgrounds tend to have more susceptibility to different conditions than other individuals. So very common in women, particularly of childbearing age. Okay. So what's going on from the medical perspective? The medical perspective is looking at the phenomenon, and they say, well, there's a genetic component, there's some environmental components, but ultimately we don't really know what's going on. There's a lot of different autoimmune conditions, of course, so we can't chalk up every single autoimmune condition is the exact same. But largely, the medical perspective doesn't know what's happening here. And the only thing that conventional medicine can do is suppress the immune system and get rid of the obvious environmental triggers that they have seen, like viral and bacterial infections. But there's a lot more than that. There's a lot more than that, and we're going to get to that in a second. Now, in the conventional perspective, there's no cure for this. How can I manage my life now that I have an autoimmune disease? Although most autoimmune diseases don't go away, you can treat your symptoms and learn to manage your disease. Right? So again, conventional medicine is disease management. Drugs and surgery don't cure you. They suppress the symptoms. They save life. They allow the system to function at least at a baseline so that you don't die or that you're not in acute crisis. But it doesn't cure the issue, because the only way we can cure and reverse the issue so that it actually goes away, not just suppressed, but actually goes away so you don't need medication, is to understand what causes it. So since they're saying most autoimmune diseases don't go away, that means they don't know the real cause, or they don't know how to treat the real cause. But we do from the holistic perspective. Okay? So what's really going on in the holistic paradigm? Now, remember, we have the four-legged stool in the holistic model. What does that mean? The four-legged stool is detoxification, nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset. All holistic paradigms recognize these four pillars of healing. They're natural laws, meaning that you can observe them consistently and they behave consistently again and again and again, so consistently that we consider it a natural law of healing. All holistic models include these four legs of the stool, which means that we can look at autoimmune conditions from these four legs. In the holistic perspective, we're not treating diseases, we're treating people. So it doesn't matter if you have an autoimmune condition or a digestive issue or a hormone imbalance or a joint issue or migraines or anything else. All of those diseases are manifestations of imbalances in these things, because these are the four legs of how you heal. And I'm not going to go into each one of these now, because I want to relate each one of these to autoimmune conditions specifically, because different conditions have different imbalances, tendencies towards different imbalances, but all diseases have imbalances in these four things. And these are the four ways that you reverse it, because they're the four root causes. So in autoimmune conditions, let's look at detoxification first. Now, even in the conventional medical model, they admit that they have observed different triggering factors that lead to autoimmune conditions in people who are susceptible. Now, there's so many environmental toxins that are in our environment that have been increasing over time, like chemicals and body care products, genetically modified foods that are heavily sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, plastics and other heavy metals in food containers, in cooking tools, cooking equipment, air pollution, water pollution, the list goes on. So in the holistic perspective, if there's a big enough environmental load of toxins that are affecting the immune system is going to start reacting and get unbalanced. So all of autoimmune conditions have this immune reactivity sensitivity in common. The immune system is starting to go beyond its normal scope of function and create antibodies against its own body. So all of them have immune dysregulation at the center of that process. And the immune system makes sure that there's nothing that's coming into the body or circulating the body that is going to be damaging to it. So it will identify those things so that they can be detoxified properly. So if the body's bombarded with toxins, the immune system in susceptible individuals is going to get aggravated and may start acting beyond its normal scope. So environmental toxins is a huge component in autoimmune conditions that we need to be aware of. And, many people with autoimmune conditions and asthma and allergies know that there's certain chemicals, perfumes, air fragrances, or fresheners, harsh chemicals, etc., that can cause rashes and other reactions. That's your immune system reacting to those things. So people with autoimmunity are highly susceptible to environmental toxins, and they already probably have an environmental toxic load that their body's trying to deal with. So at the very least, cleaning up the environment is going to take some of that pressure off of the immune system so that it's not so reactive. There's also metabolic toxins that everyone produces as a matter of course of normal metabolic function. Just like any system that produces energy, there's going to be waste products that the body has to deal with. The body's no different. So when we have our metabolic process of creating energy from calories, there's byproducts that our body needs to detoxify properly. And if our body can't do that effectively, that's going to create a metabolic toxic load from within. Now, what's the biggest source of metabolic toxicity? Food intolerances. We talk about this over and over. We're a broken record about it. Food intolerances are genetic, constitutional enzyme deficiencies that don't allow the body to digest and absorb certain foods. What happens is these foods go undigested into the gut, and then those undigested products inflame the immune system, because where is 80% of the immune system? It's in your gut, because your immune system protects your body from the outside world. And it has to line all the surface area of the small intestine primarily and large intestine in order to prevent it or protect it from the foods and other things that you're consuming. Because until it gets into your bloodstream, food that you consume is still part of the outside world. So you have your immune system lining your gut wall. And if your digestive system is compromised, then your immune system is going to be inflamed, right? Because your immune system is lining all of your gut. That's why in so many chronic diseases, especially autoimmune conditions, the digestive system is primary. It's a primary issue. I'm going to add digestive health. It's a primary consideration. And food intolerances represent metabolic toxins because we eat foods that our body can't digest, and then those go undigested and they inflame the immune system, which then can cause it to misbehave. Or to misbehave isn't really the right term because the body is very intelligent. So it's really like it makes it overreactive. The body's just trying to do the best it can. Okay, food intolerances and food combinations. This also includes any maldigested food, which can happen when your gut is compromised, processed foods, and any detoxification issues that don't allow your body to deal with just the normal load of metabolic toxins that are produced from everyday life, everyday process. Again, even if you're eating the perfect food, your body still has toxins that it has to deal with from the metabolic processes. So any detox dysfunction is going to cause metabolic toxicity. Now, detox dysfunction it means that there's the body's ability to deal with toxins is damaged or is weakened. The primary ways your body deals with the way it detoxifies is your liver, your gut, digestive system, and kidneys through your urine, as well as for females, the vagina and uterus, right? There's also secondary ways the body detoxifies through the skin, lungs, lymphatics, etc. So if these detoxification pathways are weakened or blocked or imbalanced, then the body's going to have trouble dealing with the toxicity. And that toxicity is going to build up. And then the immune system is going to get aggravated or irritated by that added toxicity. So all of these things affect the detoxification leg of the four-legged stool. So what do we have to do? We have to detoxify the environment. We have to detoxify our diet, eliminate food intolerances. We need to improve digestion. And we need to improve detoxification pathways. And we can do that through a number of things. But one of the primary ways to do that is with detox routines. Okay, so that's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is nutrition. It's well known, even in the medical field, to some degree, that there's nutritional deficiencies that affect autoimmune conditions. One of the big one is vitamin D. But just to say that it's only vitamin D is really not painting an accurate picture, because we need so many different vitamins and minerals. And if the body doesn't have the proper vitamins and minerals to actually function, which could include digestive function, could include liver function, could include any of the detoxification that we need, then there's going to be stress and weakness in that system. That goes back to our body's ability to detoxify. So vitamin D is one big and obvious one that's been studied, but really minerals, other fat-soluble vitamins like A, K, and E. Vitamin A is fundamental to the immune system, fundamental to its process. So of course, if you have a deficiency in vitamin A, then that's going to make it so that your immune system doesn't behave in a normal way, or it's struggling to behave, so it's doing things to compensate. That's probably a better way of saying it. It's not misbehaving, it's just doing the best it can under conditions that aren't great. The fat-soluble vitamins are important for all of our hormones. They have such an important impact on the body that we really need all of those vitamins in order to have normal function. You see, that also includes B vitamins, vitamin C, right? If there's deficiencies, the body isn't going to be able to function at its normal healthy state. So we need to address deficiencies. That includes not only diet, but also supplements. And we give all of our patients supplementation because the food is so depleted in nutrients. Even if we do the best we can, and we recommend that you do the best you can to source good food, go to local farms, prepare nutrient-dense foods, and focus on certain foods that have a high amount of nutrient density. A good example would be bone broth. Bone broth has wonderful amino acids like glycine, for example, that is very low in muscle meats and other proteins. So it really helps to balance out the proteins that we're getting. Proteins build everything in the body. The proteins that are in the amino acids that are in bone broth have a particular affinity to the gut lining and the skin and other areas where, again, the immune system is located. So it can be very supportive for those areas. So that's just one example of a nutrient-dense food that we often recommend to patients with autoimmune conditions, but we also provide supplements for the vitamins that they're deficient in. And let's not be too narrow about this. It's not like, everyone with MS is automatically vitamin D deficient, but that's one correlation that's been made consistently in the medical literature. We don't treat MS. We treat people, and different people will have different deficiencies. So it's important to understand your deficiencies and fill those deficiencies so the body can function normally. And again, it relates totally back to this whole concept of digestive health and detoxification. Another aspect of nutrition, we put it in the nutrition category, is your hormone balance. Your hormones have to be balanced in order to function normally. And your hormones have a huge, huge effect on your immune system, your whole body. For example, your adrenal glands keep your immune system in check. That's why cortisone is a steroid that suppresses the immune system, and that is an analog of cortisol, right? Cortisol is produced by your adrenal glands. So when your adrenals aren't working properly, your immune system isn't going to be held in a regulated state, right? So cortisol is a stress hormone, but we need it in order to function properly. And these come from your adrenal glands. Another hormone system that is fundamental to this is thyroid, because your thyroid controls your metabolic rate. If your thyroid functions low, your body's not going to have the metabolic energy to heal. And your thyroid and adrenals and pituitary and ovaries and testes and all the different endocrine glands are all completely interlinked. So we need to support the thyroid, the adrenals, and the other hormone glands. Another really big player here is estrogen. Estrogen. And this is one of the reasons, in my opinion, that we see autoimmune conditions in females primarily, oftentimes around childbearing age. Because estrogen is higher in females, and estrogen tends to be very inflammatory and very anti-metabolic. If the estrogen is high, that's going to cause all sorts of inflammatory issues on the body. When you run estrogen through your liver should metabolize all of that estrogen. But if your liver is dysfunctional for whatever reason, it's not going to detoxify all the estrogen. And then that estrogen is going to accumulate in the body, causing inflammation. Again, inflammation is driven by the immune system, further aggravating the immune system, further affecting the detox pathways, further affecting estrogen. So it's a revolving door positive feedback loop. Estrogen needs to be held in tight regulation. And things that do that are having a good metabolic rate with your thyroid, for example, because thyroid keeps estrogen in its place. Same with good liver function. So good liver function, thyroid, metabolic rate, and decreasing factors that increase estrogen, like polyunsaturated fats. We call those PUFAs. And other things that create inflammation. So estrogen and hormones are a huge part of this whole picture. Again, that's the reason why women are more susceptible to autoimmune conditions by far. And many women with autoimmune conditions not only have digestive issues, very common, as to what we talked about up here, but also have hormone imbalances. What does that mean? Terrible periods, PMS, sugar cravings, fatigue, heavy bleeding, irregular periods. So if you have these issues, that means that your estrogen is high and that your hormones are fundamentally out of whack. And that could be one of the main contributors of this whole issue. Okay? So that's nutrition. Now let's talk about lifestyle. This is an area in which the conventional medical system totally overlooks. Same with mindset. Our last two pillars. Same with detoxification for that matter. So the only one that it really looks at is nutrition to a little degree. It recognizes it. But detoxification, it's totally lost about, and definitely lifestyle and mindset. Lifestyle means the way that we live our life on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. What do we do when we wake up in the morning? How do we approach our morning routine? Do we get outside? Right? So, getting outside, sunshine, morning routine, daily schedule, eating schedule, sleep habits, movement. This is the way that we live every day, day to day to day. Now, what affects the immune system? Because again, we're talking about autoimmune conditions here, and autoimmune conditions are fundamentally due to immune system dysregulation. Immune system behaving in a way that is stepping beyond its normal balanced state. The immune system is going to be affected by weather, which can change the stress on our body, the food that we eat, inflammation of any kind, stress. It's a well-known phenomenon that stress is going to trigger the immune system, whether it's physical stress, inflammatory foods, environmental toxins, or psychological stress. And if we're not keeping normal daily routines, eating enough and often enough to manage our blood sugar, that kind of gets into nutrition. We're not getting enough sleep. That's all putting a tremendous stress on our body. And when our body is stressed, our immune system has to go into overdrive in order to keep our body protected from things that could hurt us, because we're in a vulnerable state. So the immune system is going to get cranked up, right? That's our immune system's job, is to protect us. So if we're in a vulnerable, weakened state because we don't have good routines, then our immune system is going to get triggered. That particularly is relevant for psychological stress. So understanding the way in which our bodies are getting stressed out, whether we're a busy mom trying to manage a household, taking kids all over the place, keeping up the household duties, maybe taking care of the kids and working, or working a crazy job that's stressful, maybe 40 hours a week, maybe more, maybe less. Maybe it could just be extremely stressful. Maintaining routines so that we're not running around all day without a break. You see? So the lifestyle factors are very easy to overlook. It's like, okay, let's do some detoxification routines. Let's clean up the diet. But if we're not managing the lifestyle stress, physical and psychological, that we're putting on ourselves every day, it's going to be very hard to get better. That may be one of the primary issues that's going on here. Many people with autoimmune conditions will admit, I've seen it over and over again. Some life traumatic experience happens and then they develop an autoimmune condition. There's no surprise there. Undergoing stresses like that has a huge toll on the body. It ultimately affects your hormones. Your adrenal glands go into overdrive, right? Your thyroid gets suppressed, estrogen skyrockets. It affects your nervous system, which has a fundamental effect in the whole body. It affects your psyche. So we need to look at lifestyle factors here. And then mindset is its own category. This isn't the way that you live on a day-to-day basis. This is the way in which you think. And this may sound like a mind blow, but there's totally these patterns that we see in holistic medicine. When you look at how things work, it makes perfect common sense. It's not something that we need $10 million in research and another 10 million in technological development in order to understand what's going on here. What's happening with an autoimmune condition? The body is attacking itself. How many people are walking around every day thinking of how ugly they are, how bad they are, how they're never going to meet anyone, how they're making mistakes all the time? A consistent flow of judgment coming from the mind to the self. It's the mind attacking itself, just like the body attacking itself. This is such a observable phenomenon that myself and many other people have talked about in the holistic space. That it has to be addressed. Oftentimes, it's the actual root of the issue, of the autoimmune condition. Constant negative thinking, judgmental, self-hatred thinking, which is us attacking ourselves. Fundamental to autoimmune conditions. So in order to improve this person's issue, to find the root cause and to reverse the problem, we need to address mindset. How are you relating to yourself? What are you thinking? Right? What are you feeling? Critical. And that's why this is a really holistic perspective. We're not just working on the physical. We're working on the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. All levels need to be integrated. We are multidimensional beings. All of them are important to greater or lesser degrees for each individual. So sometimes the mindset is 95% of the issue. Sometimes detoxification is 95% of the issue. I'd say that's a high percentage because mindset is almost always there. But really, all these issues are almost always there. There's stress, the lifestyle factors aren't there, the person's depleted with nutrients, detoxification pathways are blocked, and there's a ongoing environmental and metabolic toxic load. And there is self-deprecating, harming thoughts and belief systems. This is the holistic perspective of autoimmune conditions. So, what's the medical treatment? In the medical world, let's see here. Again, this is womenshealth.gov. Are there medicines to treat autoimmune diseases? This site categorizes medical treatment in 3 different categories. Number 1 is relieve symptoms. Many people have symptom relief is needed for some individuals because there's pain that can create severe issues, like severe challenges in living everyday life. Pain in the joints, pain in the gut, etc. We also see issues like swelling that makes it hard to move, depression and anxiety, which makes it hard to function oftentimes, sleep issues, fatigue, etc. Rashes that can be very debilitating. So we have symptom relief for the various side effects of autoimmune conditions. We also have a replacement for things like insulin for diabetes type 1, where the body attacks the production of insulin in the pancreas, as well as thyroid for people whose thyroids are being attacked and they need thyroid replacement. Now, some people with thyroid issues get their thyroid ablated or destroyed through radioactive iodine purposely because there is no treatment for things like Graves' disease. So then the person needs thyroid medication after their thyroid is destroyed by conventional medicine. And it's too bad people have to do that because there's other ways in which we can treat this. There is an answer to this. It's not necessary. But if the issue is not addressed, then people need to get replacement for those things that the body needs. And then the biggest way that it's treated is by suppressing the immune system. This is done through steroids primarily, as well as biologics that basically attack or destroy or prevent certain parts of the immune system from working normally. So they're isolating a certain part of the immune system where they're saying that's where the issue is coming from. But ultimately, all of these things, besides replacing vital substances, necessary for some, obviously, it's suppressive. It's symptom suppression, immune system suppression. The only thing that conventional medicine can do about this issue is suppress it. Suppress the immune system's response. It's not even addressing the actual issue. It's just suppressing the immune system from behaving in that way. And what people with autoimmune conditions experience is lots of side effects from the medication because of this, as well as needing more and more and more meds over time in order to keep the immune system suppressed. So when you suppress the immune system, you're susceptible to infections, you're susceptible to all sorts of things. And there's lots and lots of side effects with these heavy medications over time because they take such a toll on the body, like long-term steroid use, can wreck your gut lining, can throw off all of your hormone systems, right? Susceptible to infection. And then you need higher and higher and higher doses, and you need to keep suppressing. And oftentimes people will experience a rebound effect. They have to keep taking higher and higher doses. If they don't, the immune system will come storming back, because suppressing the issue doesn't make it go away. The immune system is only trying to heal the body. Remember, the body is intelligent. Everything that the body does is an attempt to heal. It's an attempt to bring about balance. So suppressing the very thing that is trying to correct itself is only going to cause problems. Now, some people need to suppress symptoms. They need to suppress the immune system. Even symptom suppression is part of the holistic therapeutic order, because you have to save life primarily, and you need to save the person from getting into an emergent situation. Because sometimes, for example, if you let the autoimmune process go on too long, the person may have to get their colon cut out, or they may become septic, or other things like this that are actually dangerous for the organism. If you don't have the education or the time, the knowledge to know what the root is, symptom suppression can be exactly what you need. But it's not a long-term solution. It's not a cure. It's only suppressing the issue. It's not treating the root cause or reversing anything. Okay? So that's the medical system. There's not a lot that the medical system can do for these issues besides stabilize them. And oftentimes what people end up having to do is get things removed, like their thyroid, their colon, all sorts of areas, because the body's attacking it and they're suppressing it. It keeps coming back, higher and higher doses, keeps coming back. And ultimately, in order to keep the process at bay, they just have to remove the organ altogether, or the area that's causing problems, which causes all sorts of other issues, of course. Conventional medicine doesn't understand the environmental, lifestyle, mental, emotional, and toxicity and nutritional aspects of disease, which is the root of disease fundamentally. So how do we heal autoimmune conditions from a holistic perspective? Everyone is different. Every single person is different. However, each person needs the four-legged stool in different ways, individualized for their lifestyle, depending on their particular imbalances. Sometimes people have to work 50 hours a week. It's part of their job. Can we optimize that situation? Yes. Does everyone need the exact same daily routine? No. Does everyone need the same diet? Absolutely not. Does everyone have the same food intolerance? Absolutely not. Are there different organ systems that are compromised in different people? Absolutely. Especially with autoimmune conditions, which affect different areas of the body. So you see, we can apply the four-legged stool, which is a model, it's a framework, to each individual, not to the disease, you see. I never said, here's how you treat lupus, here's how you treat MS, here's how you treat Graves, here's how you treat rheumatoid arthritis. We can see patterns within disease states, but ultimately each person is totally unique. And each person needs their own detoxification routines, their own digestive and detox support. They have their own food intolerances. need their own diet, their own supplements with different vitamins and minerals and organ support, a totally different lifestyle plan because everyone lives a different lifestyle, and a different strategy to address their particular flavor of false belief systems. By false belief systems, I mean ways that you see the world and yourself that aren't in alignment with truth. It's in alignment with coming out of fear, pain, unworthiness, etc. So that's the holistic treatment, is to address these things to varying degrees depending on each person. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Please let us know if you have any questions. Leave a comment, reach out to us. We're on Telegram, Instagram, TikTok. We have our own private community called Haven House. Many ways to get in contact with us. If you're interested in asking us particular questions about your issue or interested in becoming a patient, please schedule a free consultation with us. You can do that on our website, havenholistichealth.com. Thanks so much.